Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. We're joined by a very special guest, former Tennessee Senator Fred Thompson. Senator Thompson has had a very distinguished career in a variety of roles. As an attorney, he served as minority counsel to the Senate Watergate Committee in 1973. In 1995, he began serving 8 years in the Senate and ran for president in 2008. You have no doubt seen him in various movies and on NBC's Law and Order. He is now host of The Fred Thompson Show on Westwood One, a radio program he co-hosts with his wife, Jerry. Senator Thompson is the author of the brand new book, Teaching the Pig to Dance, a memoir of growing up and second chances. Released in May, it recounts his upbringing in small-town 1950s Tennessee. Welcome back to Newsmax TV, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good to be back with you again.
Senator, congratulations on the book. I was rather surprised and intrigued by the title. Tell us where Teaching the Pig to Dance came from.
Well, there's an old saying, you know, teaching a pig to dance is a waste of your time and it irritates the pig. And that's the way my teachers and parents and neighbors felt about me as I was growing up, I'm sure. And myself, playing the part of the pig, felt the same way. I was a hard kid to teach anything back in those days. Had to learn some lessons the hard way.
You weren't a difficult child, were you?
Yes. I was not a mean kid. I was just carefree and irresponsible. And, you know, all those things that I mentioned earlier about growing up and my atmosphere and the things that surrounded me and so forth were all much more interest to me than schoolwork, for example, or staying out of trouble. And there was always some kind of a mischief. But mainly it was a lack of accepting any responsibility for anything and just wanting to have a good time and enjoy life, you know, not unlike a lot of other kids. But I mentioned in the subtitle, Second Chances. And I had like I said, when I grew up, I had to grow up quick, but life is full of second chances and sometimes even third chances if you deserve them. And I got those from the people closest to me and from the country that I was fortunate enough to be born in. So it doesn't matter what you do as a kid. Sometimes even a little bit of rebelliousness, I think, and independence is kind of a good thing. But it's got to be harnessed. You got to have the right examples around you, and you got to wake up and realize that it's time to be a man now, if you're a man, and move on and do better. It's an American story. It's another American story that's been replicated so many times throughout our country. But, you know, I can't help but think that mine is a little bit unique in some respects.
Now, you touch upon the influences in your life in this book: family, neighbors, teachers, sports, romances, and crises. How did they shape your character and the way you look at life today?
Well, I breathed a very rich atmosphere in that little country town I grew up in. You know, it was full of local heated politics and sports and church and the movies and my dad's used car lot and all those things. And I was greatly influenced by that. I think it formed the basis of my character and my beliefs. To this day, you know, I learned that when you do good things happen to you. When you do bad things happen to you. I learned about the influence that a man with no really any formal education in his own little business, I'm talking about my daddy, what an influence. Just a man can just go to work every day, come home every night, be a good husband and a good father. No government loans, no bailouts, no help from his parents or anything else, just out there making it every day and providing a secure environment for a hard-headed kid to grow up in, and being there when things got tough and I really needed him. It was just an example of what a man ought to be like, and it was something that stayed with me and something that I've tried to adhere to the rest of my life.
Now, in the book, you remember fondly and admirably your mom and dad. Of the many lessons that they taught you, what sticks out most in your mind?
Well, I think the importance of a good family and a good relationship. And, you know, my mama always told me, said, son, you can be anything you want to be, but just don't be a lawyer or a politician. So I kind of disappointed her on a couple of different areas. I think she got over that lawyer part. I'm still not sure about the politician. But lots of lessons going back. You know, to take life as it is, try to change the things that you have some control over, learn to live with what the hand that's been dealt you, and do it with good humor.
Now, looking back on your life, how do you explain that a small town boy achieved a law degree, became a lawyer, witnessed history at Watergate hearings, went on to Hollywood and the Senate, and ultimately the presidential campaign trail? How is it that you achieved such greatness, and what lessons are in your story for the rest of us?
Well, I appreciate that compliment to the extent that it's true. It goes back to the things that I write about and the way that I grew up, the kind of parents that I have, and the kind of country that I live in. I talk about the role of luck in a person's life, in a young person's life, but I say in the book, the really, really lucky people are just people who grow up in America with good parents. And all the rest is pretty much up to you. But it's a country of second chances. I mean, I grew up with there's no indication, I barely got out of high school. There was no indication that I was going to amount to anything. And when I had to finally grow up, I had to grow up in a hurry. I was a husband and father at the age of 17. And I found that when I was ready to buckle down, that the people around me were willing to help me. People who had put me down before when I wasn't acting right were there to help me when I was trying to do right. And it's a country of second chances and a country of opportunities. And if you're willing to take responsibility and do the things that you're supposed to do and take advantage of the opportunities that are out there, you know, it's the greatest country that has ever been created, and I'm still the beneficiary of that.
There are a lot of people these days who say the American dream is harder and harder to achieve. What do you say to those folks?
Well, I think there are definitely pressures on young people coming up nowadays that I didn't have on me and so forth. But it all depends on, back when I was growing up, kids and other parts of the country grew up different ways. Didn't have parents or had problems in their own lives, and they made it well too. So you're always going to have problems, you're always going to have good people, you're always going to have bad people, you're always going to have human nature being what it is, which can reach the heights and the depths sometimes. You're going to run into all that. What's really constant is a person's character and how they deal with all of that. And America is still as open to that as it's ever been. And that, of course, you know, gets into politics and why so many of us have been active in politics, and that is we want to have some impact on the future of our country and make sure that future generations have the same kind of opportunity and grow up in the same kind of country full of opportunity that we did.
Now, many people stick to just one profession their entire lives, but you have had several.
I've had a hard time keeping a job, Kathleen, that's true.
A lot of folks, because of the economy, are being forced to have multiple professions. Why did you choose to do so many different things? And you allude to the fact that it wasn't totally your choice all the time, but also, does having a diverse professional background make you better at the next endeavor?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I'm not sure about that. One of the things that I deal with in the book is the role of happenstance in a person's life, and why it's so important to just simply be able to recognize opportunity, and when the door's cracked a little bit, you know, push it on open, maybe walk through it, and don't be afraid. And most of the things that have happened to me have been totally unplanned. I didn't plan to get into the movies. I flash forward a little bit in this book, talk about how I got into the movies, kind of funny, I think. And I didn't plan to get into politics, and I didn't plan to do a lot of the things that just the doors open, the opportunities presented themselves, but it happens in everybody's life. The one thing that you can count on is the fact that you can't count on the things that you plan on coming true, but you can count on unexpected things happening. Sometimes they're not always good, but oftentimes they are good. And that's just the richness and fullness of a person's life living in a free country. And I've had that advantage.
So you're saying for every dark cloud, there's a silver lining?
Well, there have been more than once. Of course, the worst thing that's ever happened in my life is the loss of a child some years ago. I don't really deal with that in the book. We all have those things, one way or another, sooner or later. And but I have been blessed in a lot of different ways.
In the book, you detail your discovery of Barry Goldwater and conservatism. What does it mean to you to be a conservative?
Well, it has to do with some pretty basic understandings and values, I think. It has to do with an appreciation of human nature. It has to do with an appreciation of where our rights really come from. It has to do with an appreciation of the kind of government that we have been fortunate enough to inherit here. It has to do with the proper role of government in relationship to the citizens that they govern. And I learned early on that individual responsibility and not looking for someone else to either guide your life or to tell you that you can't do certain things, that are within the law, not to limit you and not to depend on the government for your success. So translated in modern day politics, it has to do with my concern of the centralization of the government that we have now. I think we're actually at a turning point, a tripping point in many respects as to whether or not we're going to go down the road of a larger and larger centralized government that's contrary to the system that made us the richest, most powerful, and most free country in the history of the world. It's the primacy of human freedom, knowing the origins of those freedoms and where they come from, and doing whatever you can to make sure they're preserved.
Senator, do you feel that culturally that the things that you advocate in your life have been changed by President Obama? And do you think that he and younger people have a different perspective?
Well, he certainly hasn't changed things in terms of values or anything like that. He has some that I don't share. I think that he believes in a much different role for government. He believes, I think, that we should kind of relax and let government do more and more while we do as citizens less and less, and which will take us down a road of kind of comfortable complacency and mediocrity that we see in other parts of the world. And he seems to believe that we can spend ourselves out of most of our problems, and we're spending ourselves into most of our problems. So he has a much different approach, but he's not doing anything to us that we don't do to ourselves. If our values and perspectives on the role of our government, or the role of ourselves for that matter, changes, it's our own fault. It's not his. Presidents come and go, but our country will remain, and it's everybody's duty while they're on watch in your own generation's time to do what we can to preserve that heritage.
Senator, you've shared the book with your friends and family. What has their reaction been like?
Well, it's just circulating right now as we speak. So so far so good. There's a lot of things in there people didn't know about me, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about. I was going to do a typical autobiography and talk about, Watergate, and go into the details on the movie front and the time in the Senate and all that. And I got to writing it, and it was much more fun, and to me, much more illustrative of my life in dealing with the first part of my life. And so it wound up with a much different book, I think a much more interesting one, and a more humorous one. And it's an introduction to some really, really memorable characters and people, not the least of which were in my own family.
All right, the book is Teaching the Pig to Dance. It is a must-read and makes a great Father's Day gift. Published May 18th. It's available for purchase on Amazon.com or in bookstores near you. Senator Fred Thompson, thanks for joining us. It is always a pleasure seeing you here on Newsmax TV.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.